Good morning, everyone. We're going to wait just 1 minute for people to join the call. We are starting in about 30 seconds. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second day of the We Make conference, which is now officially the closing event of our 2-year project. We're going to start off with an exciting series of presentations from best practice companies and experts in their fields. But we'll preface with an introduction from the Deputy President of the Malta Chamber of Commerce, Enterprise and Industry, our project partner, and then some words from the MBB CEO, Mr. Joe Tanti. Over to you, Mr. Shwirab.
Thank you, committee. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the International Manufacturing Conference. As we continue to witness higher temperatures than normal in various parts around Europe, it's a reminder that the world needs to change its approach towards energy and the use of natural resources to generate that energy. The Malta Chamber has always been at the forefront in this area, with sustainability as one of the main pillars for which the Malta Chamber continues to propose and generate ideas for the country to take forward. Yesterday, we listened to a number of speakers from the continent who shared experiences at both European and international level. Two of our manufacturing members, Trelleborg and Tolly, who I have a particular link to, showcased what they are doing in this area. And we also listened to the successes they have achieved here in Malta. This project We Make, which the Malta Chamber proudly partners, hits the heart of the issues manufacturing companies face with energy costs. Energy costs are a critical cost of production and manufacturing, and in some industries, like the ones I come from, higher probably than others. Tariffs, we know, will continue to increase. Companies need to be thinking of moving towards a net zero position, either through reducing their energy use, through alternative sources of energy, PV panels, things like that, or purchasing credits when they're unable to do anything else to balance their gaps. Investments need to be made towards energy initiatives. Whether these investments will be towards generating clean energy or towards more energy efficient machinery, investments will need to be made. We need to remember that when we consume energy, we emit CO2 emissions. And by 2050, as a country and as a continent, we need to achieve a net zero position. In this respect, Malta needs to invest in long-term thinking. The direction needs to be towards focused initiatives. We need to be aware that as early as next year, 2024, the new reporting standards on ESG, environmental, social governance, will come into effect. CSRD, as they are known, is the new standard, is not only about ESG reporting measuring systems based upon materiality, policies, and action plans for achieving compliance. These new reporting standards will run parallel to a company's financial reporting, and in nature will be pretty rigid. It's therefore important that investments in energy efficient plant and machinery continue to take place, as manufacturing will face challenges in the near future to reduce year on year their carbon footprint and therefore their electricity consumption. The same applies to water in Malta, which is the most water-stressed European country and one of the top 10 most water-scarce countries in the world. Renewable energy for water treatment, which is a vital part of Malta's beleaguered water provisions, needs to be a priority. At the same time, incentivizing companies to invest in groundwater cooling and proper water reservoirs to store this scarce resource should be one of the many ways to assist the manufacturing and possibly other industries. Events such as today's, and I would say yesterday's as well, demonstrate the importance of sharing good practices, as these will help companies think differently in achieving an energy efficient manufacturing environment. Thank you very much, and hope you will have another interesting morning on this very important subject.
Thank you very much for your support, Nick, and the support of the Chamber. Mr. Joe Tanti?
Thank you, Tim. Let me start off by thanking Mr. Schwere for setting the scene for today's interesting session. Just a few words from my end. There's one point I want to make, which stood out about what made the WeMake a success story. Actually, Tim put me on the spot the other day, and he asked me what I thought worked best about this project. And the answer came to mind immediately, I have to say, because it is the aspect of sharing. The aspect of sharing and the willingness of manufacturing companies in Malta, large and small, to work together and achieve these results. You know, we've seen it, and I continuously liaise with the whole management team of EWA, MBB, and the Chamber, and especially Tim and Jeffrey Saliba. And we continuously have these discussions, and it's amazing how companies opened up their doors to share their experiences and lessons learned during their sustainability journeys. And we should not take this for granted. Therefore, this project aligns perfectly with our goal as MBB in itself in improving engagement in the business community. It is more worthwhile to highlight this point is that at a time when there is such a shortage of human resources, by having companies come together to share knowledge and help each other to upskill and retain employees, we are actually growing the pie instead of fighting over slices of it. So we are strengthening each other by raising the level of the whole industry and the whole work. So by working together, evidently, we can achieve so much more. It is in this spirit that I would sincerely like to thank the Energy and Water Agency for giving us this opportunity, the Malta Chamber and its members, the university, and the foreign companies who are with us, who have been with us throughout the project, but also throughout these 2 days, who have all joined hands to make this project possible and to make it a success. I hand over now to a busy agenda for the final event of this project. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Tanti. Our first presentation today is from the Italian ice cream manufacturer Samontana, which I have no doubt we are all familiar with. Mr. Marco Greco is going to present the best practices of this manufacturing company.
So thank you, Timothy. It's a pleasure, it's an honor for us to share this presentation. And let me introduce quickly what I'm in the video, what we did in the Vinci factories, and but first of all, who we are, because maybe you know Samontana, but I would like to spend a few words. Do you see the presentation?
Yes, we do. We do.
Okay. So Samontana is an Italian company, you know. Now we produce more than 1.4 billion portions per year. And you may know us for the ice cream production, but we also produce croissant. Our production is 60% in ice cream and about 40% croissant. And we are leader in Italy for croissant. So we have 3 factories. one in Empoli, that is near Florence, and the other one in Vinci, near Florence also, and another one near Verona. We produce ice cream in Empoli, where is also our headquarters. And in Vinci, we produce croissant, and in Verona, we produce both croissant and ice cream. So let's speak about Vinci's factory, because here is where we could do this job. It's, as I told you, concerning the water consumption. It's a kind of optimization of the water treatment and also to reuse the water. So double way to reduce the water consumption. Vinci factory is, you see on the screen, is about half of the surface covered by a cold store, and the other half surface is covered by the production of croissant. We produce frozen croissants, so we proof and we freeze them. So you can imagine the quantity of freeze, of power freeze that we have to manage. Building and way is of production. We come shift for 5 days, so we start Monday morning up to Saturday morning. We work 44 hours per day, and we have not seasonal production. How we use the water in this factory? So basic two feed to the factory. One from the municipal side, one is from the wells. And we use the municipal supply for ingredients, we use, and basically CIPCO room cleaning. So industrial cleaning is about 7% and 16% is in the ingredients. The water from the municipal supply. At the same time, we have wells, water from wells that we use in the natural service, and this is a typical set for a food factory. What it is important that the supply before this that was much higher than the water supply with for the municipal, because it was before optimization. So before modification, this was the pattern. It's basically, as I told you, in the process with the use of water just showed in the slide, and the water from goes by accumulation thanks to the sensors. Since I told you the installed power freezing is quite high in this kind of production, evaporative condensers are very important because they have to drain out all the heat that move from the product and also from compressors. In the evaporative condenser, we have a feed, obviously, water from the evaporation, then the evaporated, and then blow down. The blow down, together with the rest from the process, go to wastewater via biological treatment, and then obviously to the sewer, except for the solid sludge to treat separately. This is water that goes into the croissant. It is the last one, the one that does not go to the wastewater biological treatment. There is another important factor about this factory, is that the water well, the water from the well is not a very high quality and a very high availability. And this is why this is another factor that moved also to this improvement project, especially for high concentration of manganese and iron and high conducibility. That used to bring also high maintenance cost and cleaning activities quite more complicated. Just a screenshot about the evaporative condenser. As I told you, we have the evaporative condenser. We have 6 units like the ones in the picture. They have to drain out the heat coming from our production. We have here, as I told you, 5 lines and about 8 tons per hour in capacity of production. So that is the mass to freeze down, together with the store that, as I showed you in the picture, is quite big. It's about 10,000 pallets at minus 30 degrees. The evaporative condensers, the useful factor is the evaporated, that is with the latent heat is the effect that we have to drain out. And since if we look at the simple pattern, you will see that the feed flow is kind of refill to the evaporative condensers, goes even in the evaporated and even in the blowdown. So as soon as it goes in steam, obviously the blowdown gets concentrated. So this is also an important factor that I will show you in the next slides. At the beginning, so before the treatment, before the improvement project, we had a concentration factor that was 1.4. 1.4 means that if I consider the use of water, I have about 30% of refill go in the evaporated, and the rest it's 70% that goes in blowdown. And we could not concentrate it more because of the quality of the water in the field. And in fact, this was efficient use of water and high water pumping, especially in summer, because we have a kind of production that in summer gets its peak, and also because the high temperature of the air make more necessary the latent heat of the water when it's evaporated. And so high water pumping and high water feed the biological treatment. Of course, high cost for the discharge. The efficiency of use of water in this system, it was about 30%, as I showed you. That is the part of steam that goes against the water that enters the system. Down, that was 70% that I showed you, also goes to the wastewater biological treatment. That is a standard biological treatment system. And in this pattern, you see the activities, so the actions that the stage of the water. And you can imagine that a higher blowdown means high water flow. High water flow means also reduce of residence time in each tank. And then, of course, you have the biological treatment that has a reduced efficiency. So let's go to the improvement water use project. This is a basic process that needs to to consider the use of the water whole process of the industrial service. And it is very significant that after improving treatment and working on recovery, we arrive to the use of the water. We show you how. So the objective was mainly to make the water process more sustainable and also to improve the heat exchange efficiency in the condenser. And then we put in actions the well water pre-treatment. That is was a very important stage. And then this also let the whole system work better, and by using also other devices that I will show you to arrive to the recovery. In this simple slide, I will show you the concept. So this was the original situation. It's, as I told you, a standard way of working with the industry. And after the well water, we put iron removal filter. That is a device that allow the iron to go down in the water. The water treatment, after the water treatment, this is the biological water treatment at the end of the water flow in the factory. We put it in an MBR system, so membrane recovery system, and stop the way to the receiver. Both of them to put in a reverse osmosis plant, and then work on the evaporative condensers, so have clean water, evaporative condensers, and then just to show you where the MBR, the suction from the aeration reactor, that is the oxygenation tank. So we recover the water, and the MBR is a system that let the water separate from the mud that is in the oxygen in the oxygenation tank, and then to have it for a successive retreatment. So the technical choice, as I show you in the previous slide, is the reverse osmosis. This allow us to have pure water. It's I think the most important part of this modification in terms of cost and in installation. And after the reverse osmosis, we have a permeated quality similar to the pure water. It's less than 1 nanometer molecule passing. The 70% of permeated water, the other 30% goes to the sewer. And but however, for this is to use this system, it is necessary what I showed you in the MBR and the iron removal filter to let it to let the system work properly. The project. So you see the new pattern that is a little more obviously more complicated from the previous one, even simplified. It is here you see the 3 MBR iron remover and reverse osmosis, the 3 devices that we put into the system, obviously with tanks to let its water accumulation to let it work in the correct way. the reverse osmosis, as I told you, has an output pure water. That means that the evaporating factor is very, very higher. And so in this way, we arrived to use the 86% of the feed water. And this means that if we put into the evaporative condenser the needed water, so the evaporated part is 80%, so the rest is down. Increase the reduce the feed flow, so the refill, we reduce the blowdown, and we increase the evaporative condenser efficiency, because it works with pure water, and then the heat exchangers stay more clean, and the efficiency, as you can imagine, is higher. Then the temperature is lower, and the pressure at the at the compressor outlet is lower also. So the other effect is on the energy also. So project phases, just to give an idea for the time, it was 2017. So from this design freeze in March, then we have 60 days for the municipality approval. We have then carry out the work, so to make the complete all the system. Arrive in July, so after a few months, made the installation. And so it was before COVID, time was running fast, and for a change. And then we put into working the system this new circle of water, start MBR, biological adjustment, start of osmosis production. And in this way, we have in the first phase, we have to obviously to reset many parameters within the all treatment projects. Project delivery, it was we thought to arrive in summer to deliver, but it got longer, also because I told you the construction in summer is much higher than in low season. So the project output was quite brilliant. We were very satisfied because of the reduction of well water use, especially for the improvement of condensers working conditions, and also the improvement of the biological treatment efficiency. I see our work will not stop here, because we have still many ideas about this water reuse, especially the concentrated coming from the evaporative condensers. So we are designing and planning a new improvement on that, and also on the efficiency of the energy consumed.
Thank you very much, Mr. I'm sure that in case of any questions, we can get in touch with you. There were some connection problems, so if anyone has any things which were not clear for them, I'm sure they can get in touch separately. Thank you to Samantana, also as project partners.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco. So speaking of Marco, our next speaker is engineer Marco Cremona, who's going to present some Maltese case studies. I'm going to hand over now. to Marco. All right.
Good morning. I think it is fitting that I also talk about water after the interesting presentation by Samantana. I will talk about water use in manufacturing in Malta. I will give a brief overview. I will show some statistics, some numbers, some which are official, although having said that, official statistics on water use in Malta is quite difficult to come by, because apart from town water, there are also a number of boreholes contributing towards various sectors of the country, including industry and manufacturing. So in terms of water consumption in manufacturing, these are statistics available from the NSO, National Statistics Office. We will see that manufacturing actually consumes about 8% of the town water being produced by the Water Service Corporation. Now, that is not a high figure when compared to, of course, households. We have a very high population density, and services, which includes hotels. So Malta, one of Malta's major economies is tourism. And of course, hotels consume a lot of water, given that from studies we carried out through a project carried out by the Malta Business Bureau a few years ago, which I will come back to later. At an average, tourist consumes about 300 to 400 liters of water per day. That is not actually what the tourist uses, but all the facilities serving the tourists, which is about 3 to 4 times what the Maltese citizen actually uses. So in terms of water use by manufacturing industry, it's not much. The first column shows agriculture, and it is minimal. But that is because, of course, agriculture does not normally use mains water, but uses groundwater. So in terms of water sources in Malta, reverse osmosis currently provides 60% of all the water being provided in the town water supply, but the amount of water provided by the Water Service Corporation is probably half of what the country uses, because a lot of groundwater is being extracted, somewhat in a regulated manner, but not so much. So again, in terms of consumption, industrial consumption is about 4% of the total. These are figures which I have compiled myself from my experience in the various industries. Now, this is a bit dated, but actually what I don't think it has changed much in the last 10 years. Reason being, the population has increased. So in absolute terms, the domestic consumption has increased, but tourism has also increased. I mean, we have now hit the 2 million mark. Industry has increased, commercial use has increased, and also agriculture, notwithstanding the fact that agricultural land is decreasing, the intensification of agriculture, which means the cultivation of crops all year round using not rainwater, but using groundwater, has actually increased. So in absolute quantities, everything has increased, but in relative terms, more or less the sectors have remained the same. Now, water use in Malta. Thankfully, we don't have very high water consuming industries. So the bigger consumers of water in Malta are obviously beverage companies, laundries mainly servicing the whole hotel industry, the servicing industry, concrete batching plants, because sometimes we forget that a main ingredient in the production of concrete is actually water, and food production, in the sense that a lot of groundwater is being used in the cultivation of crops, which will then go in the manufacture of food. Now, of course, water is used as an ingredient in some manufacturing industries. For example, of course, a beverage company, main ingredient is water. Same with concrete. Then when you've got processes which require a lot of washing, for example, laundries, that's quite obvious, but also, for example, when it comes to food production, especially when they change the product, each production line needs to be cleaned between production runs. And as we also heard from Sam Montana, water is also used for cooling processes. In Malta, we have a few cooling towers, though not so much. One good idea is, which is practiced in Malta because I've seen it, but not very widespread, is actually using rainwater, which of course is cold and remains quite cool in summer, which is used also for cooling processes. So you are benefiting from the water, which is low salinity, and also from the relatively low temperature. I am going to make reference to a project which I contributed, an MBB project actually, which I contributed about 10, 11 years ago, which was an EU Life Plus project called Investing in Water. The objective of this project was to, first of all, obtain information about water use in Malta, in businesses in Malta. And by businesses, we are referring to offices, referring to manufacturing industry, hotels, so quite a wide spectrum of businesses which were audited. So we personally went to each and every business, not each and every business in Malta, but it was quite a large number and quite representative, to get information about water use, raise awareness about water issues in Malta, because as was mentioned, Malta has a big water sustainability problem, and provide tangible solutions, practical solutions to reduce water consumption. So what happened here was a meeting would be set, we would obtain consumption data, we would go on site, carry out investigations, come up with solutions, cost those solutions, and then each business would have a report, a professional report, in which they could invest and the projects would have a payback. If we look at some of the results obtained, when it comes to sources of water, there are about 8 different sources, surprisingly, 8 different sources of water in Malta. Starting from the bottom, seawater desalination, because hotels, coastal hotels in Malta produce their own water by reverse osmosis, so they do not use town water. Then there are some industries which actually, some hotels which actually have got their own sewage treatment plants to recycle water and use them for the flushing of toilets and for landscaping. Some hotels and businesses use rainwater. Some groundwater is extracted by the same company and used as an alternative to town water. It's a cheaper alternative, of course. Some businesses and hotels import groundwater by Bowser, which is water tanker. And of course, widespread is town water use. But you can see that there's a wide spectrum of water. Of course, the quality of this water varies, and also the cost. So cost is a big incentive as to why one company would opt to use one source of water, not the other. So town water is used extensively, of course. There is some rainwater harvesting. There are a few companies which have got their own registered borehole, and some companies which import cheaper water by water tanker. We came up with some statistics that in offices and factories, usually the consumption is about 25 liters per employee per day. Of course, if some factories provide showers for their employees, the consumption increases. The consumption, of course, depends on the nature of the industry. So in an office, 80% of the water used in an office is generally toilets. There is some water used in wash hand basins, some floor washing, some use in the canteen or kitchenette. But when it comes to manufacturing industry, of course, the biggest component is usually processed water, whether it's used for washing, cleaning, as an ingredient to the product. We also came up with this water intensification ratio, because we wanted to see how much the nature of the industry consumes as water consumption per employee per working day. So, of course, a beverage company, the last one and the last line. So for a typical beverage company in Malta, about 750 liters per employee per working day are used in that company, because of course it's all that water is going in the product itself. Surprisingly, pharmaceuticals also use a lot of water when compared to the number of employees, because there's a lot of disinfection, there's a lot of cleaning. Lower down the range, offices use around 33 liters per employee per working day. Manufacturing in general, including food, is running at around 100 liters per employee per working day. When it comes to potential savings, some of them are very simple solutions. Saving water from taps, showers. This is very useful in offices, of course. Toilets, some industry, and this is an important point and a suggestion I would like to make. In Malta, we recover good quality water from sewage, and a big potential consumer of recycled wastewater is actually industry, especially when it comes to cooling water. Of course, even though it's technically possible to provide recycled wastewater for food companies, that is not actually desirable, or I mean, there will be a lot of resistance, although it's technically possible. But when it comes to cooling water, I would suggest that there would be pipelines delivering water from the sewage treatment plants to the industrial estates, and then there would be a distribution of that water to those factories which actually can make use of the water, which would be a good alternative to town water or borehole water. So these are general water saving tips for industry. Unfortunately, if somebody looks at even at a household level, if somebody looks at the water and electricity bill, some people just look at the total and don't look at the breakdown. And in most cases, and especially in manufacturing industry, the consumption of electricity is much more than water generally, but even the consumption of water could be substantial. Now, if you don't look at the breakdown, if you don't occasionally do an audit, you could have leakages in the system, part of which could be underground, and that water leak would be going on for months and years and would go unnoticed, and it could be substantial. One experience I had from the MBB Investing in Water project was that I had audited a manufacturing company which were equipped with a reverse osmosis plant and the whole lot. And actually 25% of the water being consumed by that manufacturing company was from a single urinal, which was flushing every 2 minutes, day and night, 24/7, public holidays, weekends or not. So you need to, the managers need to look at their water consumption, because there could be significant undetected volumes being lost. Then, of course, this is the job of the engineer to optimize the operation of the water consuming equipment, like regulating, setting the frequency of backwashing, boiler blowdowns, washing operations. Sometimes it pays to have an outside view from an expert, because the engineers and manufacturing company are, of course, not water experts. They are used to doing possibly the same thing over and over again, and don't have the time to look outside their normal operating duties. So sometimes having somebody from the outside giving a new perspective actually helps to come up with savings and improvements. Quick case study. This is actually a manufacturing company in Malta, quite large premises, 2,000 square meters. And it was built in the 70s, so it had a rainwater reservoir of a capacity of 300 cubic meters. 80 employees between office building and factory floor. The company needs boiler water, so high purity water is required for the operation of the boiler. They have an existing RO plant to treat town water to a quality which can be used with a boiler. And something I'd like to mention is, because we always talk about water supply, but we never talk about wastewater discharges, which is a big issue in Malta and increasingly so, because there are regulations which stipulate that each company needs to treat its wastewater to meet certain discharge regulations, but it's not really enforced, but it's becoming increasingly more enforced. So there needs to be investment also on consideration about that aspect. So this is the current situation. Rainwater falls on the roof, it goes into the reservoir. The water in the reservoir is not used. Town water is being used to feed the RO plant, which then feeds the boiler, and town water is being used for the flushing of toilets in restrooms. And when I looked at this, I came up with two solutions. First of all, the function of a reverse osmosis plant is to remove salt. And town water in Malta is rather salty. So if you've got rainwater, which is not salty, of course, that might, in an extreme case, you can do without the reverse osmosis itself immediately. But even if you still incorporate the reverse osmosis plant, rainwater is a perfect substitute to town water to feed the RO plant. And the second proposal was, given that the RO plant uses 50% of the water being fed to the RO plant ends up as product water, but 50% is immediately discharged into the sewer. And that is ideal water to be used for the flushing of toilet. So what we did was actually recycle the wastewater from the RO plant to feed the toilets, and feed the RO plant not from saltier town water, but from the unused rainwater in the reservoir. And the results are 30 to 40% savings in the mains water being fed to the RO plant, better quality being fed to the boiler, reducing the need for blowdown. Blowdown is the discharge of water from the boiler to keep the salinity of the water in the boiler at certain levels. The RO membranes will last longer because they're facing less loading. 100% savings in the mains water used for the flushing of toilets because we are using recycled concentrate from the RO plant. And approximately 40% savings in mains water consumption overall. The fact that we are importing less mains water means we are importing less salt in the system, and the fact that we are using non-salty rainwater means that we are in a position to meet sewer discharge regulations much easier. And of course, the fact that we are using rainwater also eliminates flooding. What I must say also is that given that a substantial proportion of mains water in Malta comes from seawater desalination, of course, every drop of mains water saved is that amount of carbon dioxide emissions, which is being reduced from being discharged to the atmosphere. That brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope you found it interesting. I'll pass on the word back to Tim.
Thank you very much, Marco, for that fantastic run-through of the water situation in manufacturing in Malta. The Investing in Water project was an award-winning project, which Marco worked with us in some years ago. I will now give the floor to smart cooling. for a run through now of some technological solutions which will allow industry to become more sustainable.
Thanks, Timothy. Yeah, I'm Yanis. I'm the CEO of the company Smart Cooling. I will share the screen. I believe so. You can see my screen, right?
Confirmed. Thank you, Yanis.
Yeah. Okay. Here with me as well as our operations director, Tails, and country manager, Luca, which will talk a little bit more about case study, what we have done in Malta. Smart cooling is what is, I would like to drive you through what is the smart cooling. Smart cooling is the technology which is applied on the existing air-cooled chillers for one reason, to reduce the incoming air temperature to condenser coils, and as the result, it gives more cooling capacity, in the same time reducing the electrical consumption by air-cooled chiller. Nowadays, it is becoming quite crucial question, as today this conference started about the rising temperatures globally every summer. So this is the one of the aspects what we are addressing all over the Europe and I would say all over the world. And as we go further in the presentation, you will understand what I mean by that. I would like to drive you through a little bit our history, company history, and this is quite important topic to understand how we develop the product and why this product is reliable and nowadays is used by a lot of companies into the cooling industry, not only the cooling equipment manufacturers, but as well as the tech giants all around the world, industry giants who are using the cooling as the one of the prime resources. So idea of smart cooling started in 2008, right after the old world financial crisis, but the product baby burned in 2014 when we established the company Blue Energy Global. We designed our first pilot product, and in 2014 we installed our product into the Schneider Electric factory. This pilot project, I would say, was so efficient and successful. We reduced approximately 23% of energy consumption by air-cooled chillers in Schneider Electric factory, which gave to all the team, including the Schneider Electric, to jump into this topic even more deeper and to create the product available from the industrial perspective. I mean that it could be manufactured and delivered to the clients all around the world. In fact, 2014, it was, I would say, the year where the energy efficiency was not so hot topic as it is today. The products related to energy efficiency was less than you can get it today in the market. And if we talk specifically energy efficiency for air-cooled chillers in that year, it was something very far from any engineering understanding. However, everybody always understood that the cooling is, let's say, when the cooling is operational, it's 70% of your all energy bill. if we are talking about the residential, commercial, or data center sector. Adiabatic pre-cooling always was there. So it is physics, it is physical law. When the water evaporates, temperature is dropping down. However, adiabatic cooling always brought with it a lot of challenges if you are applying it with the air-cooled chillers. So the product which is built incorrectly, or let's say homemade solutions where you are applying the water spray to condenser coil, potentially will destroy your equipment, your air-cooled chiller. And that was the reason why it was always kept in the shadow and nobody was really looking into in that depth what we did. So we took all the challenges related to problems, let's say what adiabatic cooling brings, and starting to resolve these problems step by step. After the successful Schneider Electric installation, we understood that the companies who are ready for serious changes are the large enterprises with already budgeted energy efficiency budgets. And let's say 2015-16 was the year where we are really were jumping into the production industries with the companies like Philip Morris, Bosch, Nestle, PepsiCo, and such kind of industries where the client was very open to discuss and try something brand new for that year, what is in the market. We established our name through manufacturing companies, what I just mentioned, and in our website we have a huge reference list from the projects which we have executed. However, in 2016, it was one of our crucial turning points where the energy efficiency started to expand more and more globally, and we moved to the Gulf region and we started with Dubai. Why I'm stressing out this region? Because this region involved the smart cooling device operations from, let's say, 1,500 hours per year to 6,200 hours per year, 6,500 hours per year, which means that in this particular year from 2016 to 2017, we did very large development along with the different universities to create our product more reliable in terms of what materials, components should be used to make equipment run in such harsh environment which is presented in the Gulf region. Harsh environment, I'm talking about it's highly polluted air, it's low quality water, full with the minerals, and all those things are the main components which are usually destroying any equipment which is related if you are using water so intensively. So we resolved also all the challenges which were related to those aspects that I just mentioned. And the product was established as you can see today. In all this process, of course, we got a lot of government projects. We were involved in the largest government projects in UAE, in Saudi Arabia, where the results of using a diabatic product went, I would say, it was one of the largest saving position in the building. So we are reducing approximately 25 to some places in Saudi Arabia to 48% electrical consumption. So which is there is hardly you can find which could save in your building something similar what we do. So by saying that, what happened, the next step that the main chiller manufacturers, I will call 4 of them, it is Johnson Controls, Carrier, Daikin, and Train, started to observe our activities more closer, and we started to communicate with them about the cooperation. So it was, again, very long process. They have a huge requirements internally to apply any third-party product, and we went through different field tests along with their technical teams. For instance, this Carrier, we went through 2 years field test where every month the technical team from Carrier went to the site, and then they did inspection what impact smart cooling is leaving on the chiller, and if there any rust, if there is damage in the condenser coils, if there are any other problems related to adiabatic cooling, which usually before were. So after we passed this 2-year test, we got green light from the Carrier headquarters in US. In the same time, it was also done with Johnson Controls, Daikin, and Train, and we started serious cooperation with the major chiller manufacturers. So what does it mean? It means that nowadays, for instance, if we have client and the client has already sourced the air-cooled chiller, and air-cooled chiller has the warranty, then the local chiller supplier is a dealer or factory, they will be ready to supply to that facility also adiabatic cooling, which is smart cooling, because they will not void your warranty. They know the product, they have tested the product. We have executed a lot of projects with them. And this is one of the projects which we did as well in Malta, the Malta's hospital, where smart cooling were provided by Train, for instance, to that facility. Those all projects, what we are talking about, was majority related to the chiller retrofit. Chiller retrofit means that we took existing chiller installations, we retrofitted them with the smart cooling. We did all the analysis before smart cooling, after the smart cooling, and then we were able to submit to the client, to the chiller manufacturers, what is the result when you are applying smart cooling, taking in consideration each and every running cost or consumable used in this particular process. So the ROIs were very positive. If we are talking about the sector where air-cooled chillers are used intensively 24/7, like district cooling, for instance, one of our clients is the Empower, what is the largest world district cooling company here in UAE. The ROI for smart cooling equipment in those applications are about 7 to 8 months. If we are talking about some office buildings where the chiller running hours are working days and limited hours only in the daytime, let's say the ROIs is like 3 years. Yeah, but the range of the ROI using the equipment was between, let's say, 1 year to 3 years, which is fantastic results in this particular sector. However, when we went further, we did a very serious development which helped us to get into the next level. We developed a smart cooling estimation tool. What does it mean? The smart cooling estimation tool is the tool which allows us to calculate in any place in the world what would be the smart cooling performance by analyzing each and every hour per year. For instance, if somebody is telling me we have a project in Dubai, we would analyze 8,760 hours of Dubai. We will determine what is the smart cooling performance for each and every hour. What is the running cost, like for instance, water needed to get the delta T or the performance of smart cooling. And thanks that we are cooperating with the all major chiller manufacturers, and today we are cooperating with the chiller manufacturing production teams, we were able to incorporate in our estimation tool chiller manufacturer performance coefficients. What does it mean? It means that we are able to know what will be your chiller consumption, electrical and cooling capacity in any temperature change. And that gives us the availability to present to the client, to data center, or to anyone who wants to apply smart cooling, what would be your electrical consumption, or what is your electrical consumption without the smart cooling, and what would be your year electrical consumption or hourly electrical consumption with smart cooling, taking in consideration the water use, the maintenance, the consumables to get needed results.
Yannis,
So,
we're
yeah.
running slightly late. Could I ask you to conclude within 5 minutes?
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
So as the result that we started to apply such tools, we were involved into the next level, I would say, in this process. This chiller manufacturers pushed us to use adiabatic pre-cooling or smart cooling into the data centers. And this is the top of the difficulty of the cooling industry, I would say, is the data centers. So, and now as today we are talking, we have designed brand new chiller models together with Daikin, together with Johnson Controls, together with Train, the brand new chillers which are accommodating already smart cooling into their chillers and have been delivered from the factory to the data centers. So by going further, what does it mean? How does it look like from the physics? Yeah. So if somebody here is from the cooling industry or remember from the high school the psychometric chart, so that basically what we are doing, our target is to humidify the air. What does it mean? That means that in every place in the world you have a temperature and a relative humidity in the air. Let's say if we have 45 degrees ambient temperature and 20% humidity, which would be always approximately these values, then our target is to humidify air till 95%. And as we are humidifying the air, we are dropping down the incoming air temperature to condenser coil. The air-cooled chillers are very sensitive on any degree of temperature increase. Means that approximately 1 degree is approximately 1.2% of efficiency. So if you drop down from 25 to 26, 45 to 26, then we are talking about around 35 to 40% efficiency increase to the air-cooled chiller. I would like to present you a small video which explains exactly how the process has been done, and then basically it will be it. So,
I think you need to share it with sound.
sorry?
I think you'd need to share it with sound, but let's just continue.
Okay.
Better.
Yeah, I will maybe comment what's happening here. Here is the air-cooled chiller. Now it's equipped with the smart cooling equipment. Yeah, as we can see that one of the most important things are that we are covering all the chiller with evaporative protective membrane, which is protecting from the direct attachment. Oh, sorry, I moved my mouse and it went away. So yeah, these are the membranes which I mentioned. One of the very important things is our control panel. The control panel is our brains. The control panel analyzes the ambient temperature, ambient humidity, and the chiller operations. And by those analyses, we are able to analyze how much water we have to evaporate for given ambient and chiller parameters, taking in consideration as well the chiller airflow. Then we have three-level water treatment, which is very important to treat water against the limescale and to treat water against any bacteria, and specifically for Legionella. If you want to apply adiabatic pre-cooling, Legionella is the concern. And by our methodology, how we are doing, it's approved with any government, how we are treating the water against the Legionella. So once the water treated, we are giving it out with the 70 bar pressure. This is very important aspect because this pressure allows us to split water molecule to the 5 microns. And when your water is into 5 microns, the evaporation intensity is very fast, and we are able to drop down the air temperature to 2 degrees above wet bulb. Means that we are reaching about 95% evaporation intensity. So yeah, and the temperature has been dropped down before it enters to the condenser coil. And here it's very important to understand that we are not cooling down the chiller with water. We are using water to evaporate, to transfer the energy and drop down the air, incoming air temperature. And that's why the technology is safe to use for the chillers, as there is no water attachment to the condenser coil. Actually, the water is used only for the evaporation process. And some water which is not evaporate, we are protecting the condenser coil with the evaporative protecting membranes. And from the evaporative protecting membranes, the unused water is going back to our recirculation kit. Recirculation kit is again recycling the water, and this water coming back to the system. Basically, any drop what we are using from the tap at the end of the day, it will be evaporated and the temperature will be reduced. So what is very important here, what I would like to mention, that we are into the process, we are using water, yeah, to make your air-cooled chiller more efficient. But if we look in general, for instance, if we look into the bigger picture, that if you need, let's say, a large amount of the cooling, that people are usually using the chillers with the water cooling towers. And if you compare the technology air-cooled chiller with smart cooling to water cooling tower, then you will get approximately the same EAR. But the difference between these two technologies is significant into the water usage. Because if you will apply water cooling tower alone, means that the water usage will be from the same minute when you are using the cooling into the building or factory or whatever facility. But once you are applying the air-cooled chiller with adiabatic pre-cooling, then the adiabatic, then the only water will be used when the critical moment is coming and when the chiller is not able to produce required cooling capacity or required cooling demand, which significantly reduces the water consumption. And we have specifically with data centers big experience with that, where in US, for instance, in Phoenix or Arizona, where they restricted the water usage and water cooling towers, practically you are not able to use. So, and what they are doing now, that the consumption which is needed to cover, let's say, extreme peak hours, let's say from 45 till 53, 55, it will be done by smart cooling. but chiller will be working efficiently as we will drop down the incoming air temperature, but the water will be used only for those particular hours when it will be necessary. So what I wanted to say here that the smart cooling can be applied as the energy efficiency project when it will turns on, let's say from 25 degrees, and will reduce all the time the consumption of the chiller, or it can be used as well as the temperature control, which is now a big topic in whole Europe. And why it's big topic? Because the temperatures are increasing. Chiller designs where was built, let's say buildings 15 years ago are for 35 degrees, where you have in summer 40 plus degrees temperature. And in such scenarios, smart cooling can be applied to ensure that your chiller during the summer top temperatures will be efficient and will operate in normal conditions. So we have two different things where we can apply.
Yanis, we're going to have to stop here because we're running very late.
Okay.
However, there are a couple of questions in the chat. I'm seeing them as answered now. I think one of your colleagues, yes, Luca has answered the questions. Thank you very much for the presentation. Obviously, I would have liked to let you finish, but it will impact other speakers, unfortunately.
No problem. If somebody has some questions, we are here to answer afterwards, after this.
Yes, I will put them in contact with you. And if you want me to share the presentation with them, there's a lot of people who would love to see it all.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Yanis. Now I'd like to introduce Phyllis Posey, a global expert on water resources, who's going to give us a perspective on water efficiency in agri-foods.
Okay, I hope that I can share my screen. Let's see. We can share the screen here. A moment, please. Do you see it?
Yes.
Excellent. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk here at this very important conference. I found Marco's explanation of his audit and other work a great introduction to this, because this focuses much more on internal water reuse opportunities rather than external water reuse opportunities. So I think that we're looking more at what you can do to reuse water safely within food operations, and I call it rules and tools. So Posey Global helps food and beverage companies around the world turn water into a resource. What we're going to do first is talk a little bit about the context, rules of thumb, and then I have 4 steps to help you turn reuse water into an implementation plan. Let me start with the overall context. There are many schools of thought on sustainability. Some people just say it's the buzzword of the day, and some people say it's cost is the key, and some people say that environmental impact is the key. Public perception is the key. But these different approaches generate different standards, and it is critical if you're going to do a reuse project to really understand your own organization and where they're coming from, so that you can provide appropriate plans and advice within their constraints. Obviously, if sustainability means all of these things, cost, environmental impact, and public perception, but focusing your plans on speaking to your own organization will help you actually turn a plan into implementation. So work within your organization to define your specific targets. Other rules of thumb? Well, one size does not fit all. You need to really be thinking about fit for purpose. Look at the purposes of your various processes and make sure that you have the water that you need for that purpose. Even though you might take water from a mains for all purposes, it may not be necessary for every purpose. Big splashes but rarely soars. So if you try and do a project that includes everything in the plant, it may look big and it may be a great big splash, but it rarely actually happens. Strategic decentralization is really critical. If you look at recirculating, build small and expand to many. Take one small process, recirculate the water on that process, and by showing how you can be successful in one process, you'll get the opportunity to expand to many more processes. Look for a demand and supply match, because sometimes the demand for a particular process will be one kind of water, and somewhere else in the plant, you may have a supply that matches. Scale expectations accordingly. Don't say you're going to reduce by 98%. Realize that in most cases, projects provide cumulative information and cumulative results. And it's important to start out with appropriate expectations so people don't get discouraged early. And build a coalition. These things are not done alone. Every manager is the manager, but without a coalition of folks who believe in the project and want to see it successful and are comfortable working with it, it really won't happen. So you need to find your current micro and infrastructure headaches, because by starting with your headaches, you'll learn that those are the kinds of things that more people in your coalition will be anxious to change. You can improve more than just water management if you look at some of the infrastructure issues you've had: leaks, old pipes, biofilms. Start with those, because then you can solve more than one problem. Risk assessment and risk management is critical. You need to have clear monitoring and control, because that reduces and articulates the risk. And remember, life is not a laboratory. Don't be afraid of new technology. Start with peer-reviewed literature so that you can show everybody, okay, this has been peer-reviewed, this has been used in other places. Use a credible validation process and translate your conditions from what you see in the peer-reviewed literature, what you see in the commercial information that you get, into a paper analysis that says, okay, in the case study, they did this. My specific condition is 10% of this, or 120% of this, and do a paper analysis of what you can achieve and what you can look at seriously. And one thing that's very important upfront is look at whether your water source is biostable. Because if you're looking at using a water source and recycling it, if it changes and it is not biostable, then you need to include an expectation of those changes in your planning. And when you do a project, pay for service. You'll end up with a more realistic cost comparison than saying, oh, I'll take the maintenance on myself. We know all that. We're going to be fine. As Marco said, having an external expert who works with you to help you along will mean that the project will be much more effective over the long term. And document your project from the beginning. Even the considerations you decide really won't work. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. And somebody's going to come back another year later and say, why didn't they consider this or that? This is much better. And if you've documented both the things that work and the things that don't work up front, you can actually help them go through that process again and get to the same result. So step one, build a foundation, map what you have. You need a I call it a micro trail. Look at what biofilms that can be in your system that might challenge any reuse application. What anomalies have you had? Oh, in September, we had a little micro over there. And in August, we had something there. That really can mean persistence over time because of biofilms or other conditions. So when you have remodeled or are doing remodeling, that's your opportunity, both for the microbes, because those normal changes where you just fix those pipes or you just change those pipes a little bit, they can be significant opportunities for new microbes to grow, and they can be opportunities for you to change things. Often, when you do just that normal change, just that little piping, you ignore the dead legs. And the dead legs are a wonderful breeding ground for biofilms and serious long-term issues. Cooling and heating systems, obviously, we've talked a lot about them today, but pinhole leaks, joint fixes, all of those kinds of things, blending them in with a reuse project can be very helpful. So map what you have, start with a benchmark, and look at your water reuse patterns, your water use patterns. Look at the volume, look at the variability. CIP is that's cleaning in place is probably your most constant, even if it's occasional. It's your biggest use of water. Look at the water by product, by time of day, and by season, because many products are only manufactured in a particular season or at a particular time of day. And so by analyzing what you have in your system, you're going to find the right uses. Use flow meters and records. If you don't have flow meters, start thinking about getting them, because you can't easily do a reuse solution in any place in a company, in a manufacturing process, unless you have records as to your volume in and your volume out. Find the hot spots, okay? And that means correlating your microprofile from your benchmark, particularly Pseudomonas or biofilms or any anomalies that just pop up. Oh, I just got that Pseudomonas. I got that other microbe. Well, that may be VBNC. That's called virulent but not culturable. And that means that sometimes, based on weather conditions, flow conditions, hydraulic conditions, in your pipes, you may actually see them. But they're there waiting to come and attack you. So anomalies are particularly important. Don't ignore them. The piping that you plan on tomorrow, look at your process plans and your product plans. Are you going to add a product? Are you going to change a product? Is that an opportunity to think about a small reuse recycling project? Understand your connectivity up and down. So you have a reuse project here. Well, what's happening over here and what's happening over there? So you want to look up and down the stream. Look at any regulatory drivers, particularly around discharge quality. When you look at to find opportunities and hotspots, say to yourself, well, gee whiz, I've got this effluent issue, or I've got this discharge qualities or salinity or other issues, as Marco explained. Do you have rainwater needs? Do you collect rainwater? Are you using other water that might have high salinity in an area where, wait, salinity might be important? So wait, I've got all these other processes. Think about your connectivity up and down and regulatory drivers. The next step is to pick 2 possibilities. Don't pick 40, pick 2. Your biggest pain points, the things that people complain about most, the things that are on your maintenance schedule. Oh, I got to get around to that because that'll save us money, but we haven't gotten to it yet. Look at the location. Proximity wins. But what I mean by that is when you're looking at a small decentralized water reuse project, you want to look at where you can get effluent as close as you need to influent. So you might need a particular kind of water, less salinity, more salinity, you don't really care, can have some microbes, maybe it can't have any. All of those things, you want to make sure that you want to take water from an effluent that's as close in location, not necessarily as close in the process, but as close in location as you have for the influent. Look upstream and downstream, because sometimes that influent will come from something downstream, sometimes it'll come from something upstream. The closest effluent supply to the influent demand. Again, proximity wins. The closest micro hotspot. Make sure there is room for a recycling system, because if the pipes are so close together and you're never going to be able to fit in new pipes to recycle, okay, that isn't exactly the best location. How close to any currently monitored process is it? Because you're going to want to monitor. You're going to want to make sure that this is working for you in terms of taking an effluent from upstream or downstream, using it as the influent without any issues in the process in between. So how close is it to currently monitored locations so you can use some of that data in your planning? Consider the effluent quality, potential accumulation of metals or organics that could impact or determine treatment. Because again, you're going to get some effluent from someplace in the plant. You may not be able to use it directly. You may need some treatment. So you want to look at the different effluents and where you may have issues from a potential accumulation of metals, maybe organics, or other issues, salinity, conductivity, that might determine the specific treatment and the cost of that treatment. And remember, key technologies come in various sizes and combinations. So the step 3 is to pick the tools. Consider potential product content or worker exposure. Chemicals like chlorine are not always the silver bullet. Using that as treatment may end up giving you some disinfection byproducts that are going to be negatively impact the product downstream. Often chlorine is overused. It may be useful for specific needs and processes, but you have to understand what chlorine will leave behind. What is the potential impact? And you need to change your chemicals regularly. And I mean regularly. That means check every 4 months to prevent resistance and assure efficacy. One of the best ways biofilms grow and survive is because chlorine or other chemicals are used for a long time, and the biofilm simply gets resistant. Less chlorine one day, for whatever reason, higher temperature, maybe different pH, and guess what? You've got a bloom of microbes that'll hurt your product. Then think about removal technologies rather than treatment technologies per se. And we've heard quite a bit about different types of removal of processes. How much depends on the influent constraints? Look at your influent. What do you really need? What water is fit for purpose? How much do you have to remove? What kind of water do you have to remove? And filtration, as you've seen from the last 2 days, there's new media and technologies that are invented daily. Keep track, see what's best for your particular use. Consider your particle size, consider the most resistant microbe that you might have from your effluent, and the most significant hazard to your influent. So you're getting water from someplace in the process, and that's your effluent, okay? And what's the most resistant microbe that you might have in that effluent that will be difficult to treat or difficult to remove? And what's the most significant hazard to your influent? What kinds of issues will happen from a micro perspective that might spoil your product downstream? In picking the tools, think about UV, inactivation and disinfection. Don't use non-validated technology. Not worth your price. It's cheap, but it's very high risk. Use validated UV. There's monochromatic UV for end-of-line disinfection. There's polychromatic UV for internal recirculation systems. Pay careful attention to the flow and water quality limits of any unit you buy. And make sure you have a reliable flow meter, because all of UV disinfection is based on the flow within the unit. So if you don't have a reliable flow meter that is attached to your UV, you may not be treating to the extent that you think you are. Make sure you have computerized monitoring and tracking, and coordinate the power requirements for UV. Because if you don't put the plug in, if the electricity isn't working, if you don't have a backup generator, you may be thinking you're getting disinfection and you won't be because of a brownout, blackout, or some other power anomaly. Develop good startup and shutdown procedures. That's very important for UV, because it's a technology that inactivates and disinfects at the time. So if you leave water in a particular unit for 2 days, it's becoming a biological experiment and is not going to be particularly effective. In fact, it will probably be counter-effective if you simply put that water when you start up straight into your process. You need to make sure you have a good startup and shutdown procedures. And don't forget non-traditional environmental solutions, constructed wetlands, byproduct scavengers, and then mixing strategies, because sometimes dilution is the solution. Build a coalition, build a big tent. Talk to your maintenance people, talk to your quality people, talk to your micro people, talk to your process, your engineers. Success hinges on integrating it with the organization. As I said at the beginning, understand who your organization is, what's really important to them, and integrate your plans within the organization. And get the doers, the supporters, and the managers to be in your tent for water reuse. All functions, QA, engineering, maintenance, and most important, communicate. Leverage your coalition. Tell them what's happening. Tell them what you're thinking. Tell them what you're planning. And do a holistic lifetime cost analysis. Don't just say, well, this year we're going to do this and this, and we're going to save 90%. Not realistic. And then your first project may look successful, but after the first year, it won't be successful, and it will be very much more difficult to get support for your next project. So think about it on the long term. Think about heat recovery, storage, improvements in piping, more and different testing. Convert your benchmarking into tracking and document it. So when you start with that benchmark in step one, document that and use that for tracking your results over time. And put a picture on your internal social media that makes improvements a joy for the entire organization. So there we are. Safety first, build a foundation for maintaining microbial integrity, find a viable water reuse candidates, choose your tools, and then turn your strategy into reality with serious implementation plans. Good luck, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Phyllis. I think we're very lucky to have you with us today.
It's my pleasure.
I've already received some very encouraging feedback of your advice. Thank you, Phyllis. It's been a real pleasure. Now we're going to move to the financing side of things so that we can implement all the necessary technologies and projects that we've been discussing. We've got a short 10-minute presentation from Malta Enterprise on the Smart and Sustainable Scheme by Nadia Grek.
Hi, Timothy. Good morning. Thank you for your introduction. I would like to thank everyone else that has joined us today for this session. So allow me to share my screen. And today I'm going to be presenting one of Malta Enterprise attractive schemes, which is the Smart and Sustainability Scheme. I'm trying to...
The button should be at the bottom right, one of the little ones on the right.
All right. So the Smart and Sustainability Investment Grant Scheme, as I said previously, is one of our attractive schemes, which we have launched. It's been launched for almost a year and a half now. And the reason why we have launched this scheme is to entice companies to reduce their carbon emissions. Now I will be going through the eligibility for applicants. So basically anyone that is operating from a licensed commercial property, irrespective of whether they are a small, medium or large company, are able to apply for the scheme. Now the minimum investment under the scheme must be of at least €10,000 excluding VAT, because other schemes such as Microinvest will be able to support projects which are of a lesser amount. Now the scheme, the aim of the scheme is to achieve sustainability, improved environmental performance, and even digitalization. And we will be going through the different measures and ideas of how a company or an entity can be more sustainable. Now, the scheme falls under the de minimis regulation, and the de minimis regulation basically states that an entity cannot make use of more than 200,000 in state aid funds over a 3-year rolling period. So this means between 2021, year 2022, and year 2023. So if you still have available balance during that period, you can apply under the Smart and Sustainable Scheme. Now, the deadline for the scheme for us to receive applications is until the end of November 2023. However, having said this, we are in discussions to extend the scheme for another period. In order to apply, you can be a company or else self-employed, but you need to have a one full-time equivalent which is registered with Jobs Plus. Now, the support under the scheme is 50% of the investment costs, and it can be a number of investments. So we are not just allowing just one investment. So you can group a number of investments under an application, and we are giving 50% reimbursement, which is a maximum of 100,000 per project. We are also giving a top-up of 10% or 20% tax credit if you achieve or if you tick any of the following. So if you have a project which is new or which is, if there is an expansion of the investment in Gozo, if you are a startup, or else if you are submitting an independent energy audit on the operations of the applicant. So here we are not talking on the investment or the process which you will be tackling, but here we are tackling the full operations of the applicant. And with regards to energy audit, you can refer to the Energy and Water Agency because they have their own scheme which supports energy audits. Now, what are the eligible costs? Now, since the scheme is targeting the reduction of carbon emissions, we are looking into upgrades, improvements, or modifications in existing plant, machinery, equipment, and digital technologies. So I cannot have an entity telling me, listen, I will be extending a part of my factory and I want to purchase new equipment. In that case, that is not eligible because if you are adding on other investments which were not previously there, then you are increasing your carbon emissions. In that case, for new investments, there are other schemes such as the Business Development Scheme or the Invest Scheme, which you can make use of. Now, under the Smart and Sustainable, the project can be implemented within 12 months from when you receive your approval letter. And you need to commit to retain the investment for at least 3 years. I usually have this question on whether entities can purchase second-hand equipment from foreign countries, basically. In Malta, no, you cannot do that. But if you are importing a second-hand equipment which has not been used previously in Malta, then in that case, you can. You can submit more than one application as long as you are within the de minimis amount which you still have available. Now, what are the type of investments which you can apply for? The first one is waste minimization. So here we are looking into the introduction of industrial solutions or even strategic modifications to your existing plant, and which reduce materials per unit of production. So what we're looking for here is the reduction in packaging and anything which is increasing the lifespan of your products. We are also focusing on the reduction in plastics by, for example, installing water fountains or else bulk selling systems where your customers can bring their own containers to reduce, obviously, the consumption of plastic and waste of plastic. The second measure under the scheme is sustainable materials. So here we are looking into the investments in the change of materials in the production process and products which are ensuring the better recovery of material at the product's end of life. So here we are looking at ecologically friendly material, the reduction and elimination of toxic materials. And we are also including pilot projects and changes in the value chain to see if this would be an option for the company to implement. The next two measures, which are the most measures which we find more interesting under our schemes, is the energy efficiency and the water efficiency. So basically, under energy efficiency, we are looking into investments in solutions which are reducing power with regards to machinery, lighting, insulation of buildings, for example, and even investments in heat and power and even geothermal installations. And with regards to water efficiency, here we're looking into solutions which improve your water usages, such as closed cycle water systems, RO systems, and even investments in which store runoff rainwater. And the last measure is sustainable digitalization. So here we're looking for companies which want to adopt digital solutions which enhance their environmental performance. And here we're looking into smart HVACs and even system monitoring and even the installation of building management systems which optimize heat, light, and power usage. Now, with regards to other digitalization projects which are not covered by our schemes, the measures and support division have their own digitalization schemes which you can refer to. Before I conclude, I would like to go over a few requirements which we're asking for with your application. So we are asking for a carbon footprint report by an engineer or an environmental scientist or a competent person, because when you are writing your application, we will be asking you for your current consumption and your forecasted consumption, which you are applying for under that specific measure. And then the current and forecasted information then needs to be converted into carbon emissions, because this scheme is targeting the reduction of carbon emissions. So this carbon footprint report must be attached with the application, and the information in that carbon footprint report has to explain step by step on how you have achieved these figures. Unlike other schemes, we are only requesting one quotation. So if you have a particular machinery in mind or equipment which you would like to purchase, we are not asking for 2 additional quotations which you might not be able to find which are relevant to your requirements. So we are making it easier for you. So only one quotation is required under the scheme. We are also asking a tax compliance certificate with regards to NI, VAT, and tax. We are also requesting your audited financial statements and your management accounts. Now, with regards to if you are upgrading your machinery and equipment, your old machinery must be decommissioned, and this must be supported by a decommissioning certificate. So one cannot ask, listen, would I be able to sell it or keep it for parts? As the scheme is at the moment, this is not allowable. So in this case, you would need to scrap it and provide a decommissioning certificate that this has been done. Another important note is that any projects or payments or any decommissioning of equipment cannot commence after you receive approval from Malta Enterprise. If you would like more information, you can have a quick chat with our Business First colleagues on 34144. You can find more information on our scheme and other schemes under support.maltaenterprise.com. You can also send us an email on info@businessfirst.com.mt. And what I suggest, before you actually submit an application, please get in touch with us so that we will look into your project and assess whether your project is eligible. And if it is not eligible under the Smart and Sustainable scheme, we will be able to channel you to other departments, because we have an array of schemes which would be available for your projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia, for that excellent overview of one of Malta Enterprise's best schemes for the sustainable transition.
You're welcome.
Let's now move on to our next speaker, which is going to be APS, for a short 10-minute presentation from Miguel Calleja, Product Portfolio Manager.
Thanks, Timothy. Let me share my screen and we can dive straight in. Very good. You should be seeing the presentation at this point. Can you confirm?
No, not yet, not yet.
All right, let's try that again.
Okay. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank the MBB for inviting me here today, first off, to contribute to this discussion around the importance of green financing for businesses. My name is Miguel Calleja. I've been working within product strategy at APS Bank for 3 years now, with another 5 years in banking before taking on this role. My current focus is on the commercial and corporate banking and the integration of ESG principles into our array of propositions. Okay. Cool. In my presentation today, I'll start by examining the why green financing, why is this important to us locally? And then I'll move into the how, the actual implementation considerations and availability of green financial products to facilitate your own operational green transitions. Starting with a bit of a global perspective, the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that were negotiated back in the tail end of 2015. When considering the importance and viability of your own ESG strategies and transitions, or even whether or not to embark on one, it's important to contextualize the benefits in broader terms, and we'll cover more of this context very shortly. Interestingly, we've just passed beyond the halfway mark in terms of the expected SDG completion by 2030, and the research is showing that we still have a lot to do globally to hit these targets. In fact, we've all seen headlines like these in recent weeks, showing the effects that our rapidly changing climate is having on our cities, infrastructural systems, and ultimately lives and livelihoods. It's interesting that last week, as I sat down to begin to prepare this presentation, I expected to have to perform a fair amount of research into news outlets to find the types of headlines that I was looking for. But in fact, all of these events or headlines were only 1 or 2 days old at the time. And this trend actually continues when examining the local scene, where rising temperatures are leading to infrastructural pressures, most notably on our energy grid. I'm sure that most or probably all of us have been impacted over the last week by the severe power outages. I myself was without power for about 4 nights, I think, last week. While the impact on certain businesses and business sectors has been significantly greater, of course. Even our national hospital wasn't spared. And all of this is happening in an economic climate that was already squeezed by the effects of rising inflation, with a number of sectors only this year having seen a return to pre-pandemic levels of activity. Again, I didn't have to look far when preparing these slides, as all of this happened in the last couple of weeks. We're moving now away from the bigger picture, the state of affairs, and into the practical implications of funding the transition to a more sustainable operational business model. We're beginning with a product focus on the APS Green Finance Loan, which is available to both businesses and consumers. It's offered in partnership with the European Investment Fund under the terms of their Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Instrument for Malta. It's called EERE. This product is aimed at financing a wide variety of solutions that meet some basic energy efficiency and renewable energy standards, primarily those relating to the premises or operations of SMEs in Malta. Those of you who attended yesterday's webinar and even the earlier presentations today would have heard a lot about the types of renewable energy systems and energy efficient solutions that are already deployed by various businesses across the country, all of which would fall within the eligibility parameters of this instrument. Back to the product itself, a full interest rate subsidy is also offered through the intervention of local government, meaning that all loans sanctioned will be interest-free for the entire 10-year duration. There is a caveat here around VAT reclaimable purchases according to European rules. However, then the interest rate chargeable would be negligible still at below 0.5%. We're also able to tailor this solution to industry or client-specific requirements, so long as they lend towards the improved energy efficiency of your overall operations, such as replacement machinery, energy management systems, and more. This instrument falls under the de minimis state aid reporting framework, and the main drawback at this point in the year is that such funding is only available until December 2023, by which point loans must be sanctioned and utilized. While our green finance proposition definitely offers the best value to businesses through its essential 0% interest rates, thanks to the benefits of the EU and national funding, it's only one part of our overall green lending portfolio at APS. In fact, we've been offering green energy-linked loans for over 6 years now, I believe, and our own eco-loan products continue to offer great benefits to clients, but without some of the restrictions that are present in green finance. We were also the first bank to introduce a green home loan proposition to the country, and we've recently reinforced this for our commercial clients, who are now able to unlock preferential terms when acquiring or upgrading premises that are more energy efficient. This makes for an ideal partner with our eco and green finance loans, as one is focused on offering value to make the property more energy efficient, while the other will offer further value once it is. This also extends to the efficiency of industrial and manufacturing operations, not just the premises, and older machinery may be replaced with newer, more efficient versions. Through our green and sustainable financing packages, which together make up our green lending portfolio, we're able to create value for our customers across a wide spectrum of eligible solutions and activities. You may also have read that we were the first bank to launch a responsible lending policy this year, through which we have integrated ESG metrics into our lending assessment frameworks, which will begin to enhance the value we're able to offer when financing client projects. We've also taken these principles on board internally as an organization. We have this year significantly redefined our ESG strategy and have publicly announced a number of ESG commitments that link to our local footprint, operations, and the growth of our sustainable finance portfolio. To conclude, and linking back perhaps to my first few slides covering the broader context on ESG and how it affects businesses, the benefits for organizations in any field or sector to adopt and define an ESG strategy that is the right fit for them are significant. Eligibility for green financing packages and the reduced cost of capital or operational expenditure is one part of it. However, these benefits transcend beyond just the E and will all contribute to the ultimate sustainability of the enterprise and future-proof your business models. Some next steps: if any of you would like to learn more about APS or our green financing packages, I encourage you to get in touch through our network of branches and commercial relationship managers. Or you can even contact me directly if you'd like to continue this discussion and evaluate the best way that we can assist you with your specific needs. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to discussing any questions that you might have during our roundtable discussion very shortly.
Thank you, Miguel, for that concise but excellent and hard-hitting presentation. We'll now move on to BOV with Mr. Mark Scicluna-Bartoli.
Thank you very much for the invite. I'll just give, aware of time, I'll give a snapshot, maybe building on from where Miguel left off, because Miguel set the scene pretty well. I'll focus very much from a product angle, aware that we have a number of engineers with us and facility managers. I'll try and focus it maybe to their kind of operation. What did we do as Bank of Valletta? We focused on the energy space, knowing that it is sort of one of the most biggest pain points. And we developed the BOV energy loans. This is a pilot initiative with the EIF, which is on similar lines that Miguel was mentioning, because we are the two banks running this particular scheme. And as a bank, what we did is we found the three main niches where these energy costs or energy loans could be best utilized. We structured it into three kinds of products. One is for the personal individual, the other one is for the home loan, and the other one is for the business owner. Just to give you an insight, just to see the whole portfolio, there's the personal energy loan, which is for loan amounts up to 50K, and these are interest-free loans. We've given the option to even go for longer term loans of 15 years. but then the remaining 5 years would be paying an interest of 2.5%. This product is pretty easy to apply for because we do not ask for collateral, no customer contribution, no early repayment fee. So this is the easy entry product, yeah. For the homeowners, obviously there's a lot of investment that can be done. So what we've done is we've integrated the benefits of this product into a home loan offering. And even for those investments which potentially could be of a larger size. So here we're looking at maximum loan amounts of 100,000. These are potentially interesting products, maybe for some of you who have customers who would like to invest in energy efficiency solutions. For businesses themselves, which I know a number of you are in the audience, then it's a different kind of loan. It's the business energy loan. It's an interest-free loan for 10 years with lower extendable security requirements and the customer contribution of 20%. Who can benefit? Well, basically, previously such schemes were limited to SMEs. What we've done with this particular product is we've opened it. We've opened it to private individuals, we've opened it to mid-caps, we've opened it to large enterprises, and even to public sector entities. So now there's a much larger range of individuals and entities who could benefit from such schemes. From an eligible measures point of view, what we've tried to do in this slide is maybe give you a feeling of what those eligible measures are. I know a number of you are engineers in the audience, and potentially a lot of these are low-hanging fruits. So I understand that. However, what we've also done within the product is we've allowed for additional kinds of costs. Which are not necessarily listed here, but in your area of operation could have a CO2 reduction element in themselves. We've seen a lot of presentations on water reduction, so reservoirs, water reductions would also be an eligible cost. And also maybe some technologies in the manufacturing space that could also reduce electricity consumption, such as switch on, switch off on particular machineries that are only used when the production process is ongoing, for example. So there are different ways. These are the simple standardized ones, but if businesses are seeing that there are ways that they can significantly reduce their carbon footprint, such projects are not excluded as eligible costs. But obviously, to simplify measures, we've presented an eligible measures list. Aware of timing, I have kept my presentation very short and keen to jump into the discussion to discuss any questions or any points that may be of value. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Fantastic, Mark. As you said, now we can head into questions. So we're going to have a short session moderated by Mr. Jeffrey Saliba, the project manager of the WeMake project, to carry out the roundtable.
Thank you, Timothy. So I would like to ask APS, BOV, and Malta Enterprise a question. And in terms of, first of all, I would like to congratulate you. Extremely interesting financing measures and very interesting presentations. Thank you so much. What I would like to ask in particular to Miguel from APS and Mark from BOV is what would an ideal project proposal look like for you? And whether you've got any plans in terms of continuing the financing measures discussed or introducing new measures. And perhaps I can invite Miguel to start.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. That's an interesting question. So I think when considering an ideal project, right, the ultimate objective here at the end of the day for our green lending is to facilitate the transition towards more sustainable industries and organizations within Malta. So I think based on today's discussions and what we see going around us in general, energy independence will become a pivotal factor in determining long-term sustainability, especially as we move into the future. So our priority as a thematic area, so to speak, have been and will continue to be energy efficiency and renewable energy. We're looking to drive change there, whether through consumer financing or commercial lending. It could be as simple as retrofitting real estate, to install a wide range of energy efficient measures, or perhaps even larger, more complex projects. The bigger the impact, the more ideal the proposal would be. But every bit of performance enhancement, I would say, is valuable. The second part of your question regarding the continuation of these instruments. So the instrument that I discussed and even Mark referred to in his presentation is very much time bound, right? It's available till the end of the year because of EU funding and programming periods, essentially. What we are doing as a bank is we're continuing to evaluate the markets, seeing what's available, what new instruments are coming out at the European level, but also nationally through national funding. And we're trying to continue to enhance the products and propositions that we offer to clients. I think an instrument like this, which was super beneficial, zero interest, heavily reduced collateral, I don't see it being extended in the same way beyond the end of the year. However, like I said, we have in-house products and we'll continue to look to partner with the right organizations, whether nationally or internationally, to continue to offer these benefits.
Fantastic. Thank you, Miguel. Mark, could I invite you to add your thoughts with regards to the
obviously,
continuation?
each company is going to have its own specific nature and specific needs. So that is something which needs to be addressed by the company. But from a banking perspective, from Bank of Valletta, the focus is on CO2 reductions. So when you have projects which are structured in a way that can generate a CO2 reduction in your operations, that is something that we would be considering from a green loan perspective. Obviously, the product I presented finances all kinds of investments which contribute to a CO2 reduction. So that product in itself is a CO2 reduction product. However, there could be other investments. A carbon footprint report or a carbon transition plan can clearly show what the business is going to do and try and reduce. And in that context, obviously, then the bank would look at it and assess it. There could be options where companies that do present projects with a CO2 reduction could benefit from certain favorable terms, not just in the context of the existing product, because the existing product, as Miguel correctly said, is very advantageous considering the various subsidies integrated into it. But also going forward, the bank is looking at this kind of dynamic as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. It's very, very encouraging that the banks are also looking at financing for energy, even on a commercial basis and without necessarily the support of institutional financing. That's very encouraging. Thank you. Nadia, could I ask you a question? And the key question I'm going to ask is actually, what are the advantages for businesses in applying for multi-enterprise funding? Needless to say, we're aware that multi-enterprise funding is non-dilutive, and in some cases, particularly the measure that you initially presented, smart and sustainable, it's also non-dilutive, and non-repayable, which is amazing. But over to you. What are the key advantages to businesses in applying for ME funding?
Thank you, Jeffrey. So basically, when it comes to green financing, we are offering various schemes. So we are not just limiting ourselves with the Smart and Sustainability Scheme. With regards to the scheme in particular, previously we were giving a 50,000 cash grant. But by time we were listening to companies' opinions, basically, and we did top it up from 50,000 to 100,000 cash grant, which basically I feel this is one of the most advantageous schemes that we are offering at this point in time. And as I was saying before during my presentation, in comparison to other schemes, we are only requesting one quote, because we do hear companies speaking negatively that other schemes are requesting more than one quote, and this is the only equipment that we are looking for, and it's difficult to get comparative quotes. So we are trying to make it simple as much as possible for companies to apply. Also, we are helping companies during the application stage. So we are enticing companies to come forward to us to discuss their projects beforehand, and we would see the eligibility and which best scheme to apply for their particular projects. So we are guiding potential applicants and beneficiaries from the start of the project and before applying until the end. Now, moving away from the smart and sustainable, there are other schemes which are available and which are advantageous as well. So if we are looking for sustainable projects which have projects which look into new investments, so not the upgrading and modification of plant, there is the business development scheme, which is also offering up to 200,000 in assistance. It could be a cash grant, it could be a tax credit, it could be a combination of both, and depending on the weight of the project, we will then assess the percentage of assistance. Usually, from previous experience, we are also offering a 50% reimbursement. Now, another scheme which we are offering to companies which have larger projects, so we are trying to consider different types of projects in this case, which target sustainability. We have the investment aid for energy efficiency, where the project value is not capped. So it could be even $1 million, it could be up to $1 million. But then the aid of assistance is different. When it comes to large companies, we are offering 30%, medium, we are offering 40%, and small, we are offering 50%. Now, with regards to the assistance, we are either giving a cash grant, a tax credit, or a combination of both. So when we're talking about multi-enterprise, we are trying to find different options and availabilities for companies wanting to submit a sustainable project, and during the duration, we will be there to assist them with their requirements.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nadia. That's extremely interesting. And it's really nice to have both private sector financing, public sector financing, jointly driving to increase Malta's energy performance. So well done. If I may too, Mark and Miguel, I'd just like to ask you both one more question. And that question is basically, why should a business choose to apply for the commercial funding that you are offering? Thanks. Perhaps I can ask Miguel to start first and then Mark to follow.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jeff. I think that any business should first analyze their own operations and have a plan in place around types of measures that generate the most cost-effective, let's say, impact on the bottom line performance. So understanding what they want to do and how they can achieve it. The next step is to facilitate access to this solution. And that's where it's important to find a banking partner who not only offers financial measures to support the transaction itself and is easy to work with, but also has an ingrained set of values that align with those of your organization, so that you're finding the right partner. I think it's important to have a good idea of the right mix of funding as well that's available, as certain banking products can also be complemented by fiscal incentives and direct subsidies and grants, such as those offered by Malta Enterprise. And I mentioned earlier that at APS, we offer a wide range of green financing options. I think most businesses will find strong compatibility between these options and their own requirements. Thank you.
I think from a Bank of Valletta perspective, obviously, yes, the product was presented and it's clear the benefits of the product, but what we're seeing in our exchange with customers is this particular market segment is still maturing. So what we're doing is we sit with customers and we guide them. We guide them in helping structuring their financing, both from a state aid perspective and the grant availability, and then identifying the right product, even how to blend it, both with grants and even with existing products due to certain eligibility criteria. So there's a lot of hand-holding at this point in time for customers to be able to structure the right products. And it's also quite motivating as well when you finally get to see the product being financed, because it's not so easy due to different eligibility criteria. So we offer this kind of hand-holding structuring for businesses, so to see them come to the end of concluding a financing. So that would be my main driver at the moment.
Thank you very much. I have to say, I think it is excellent service that all of you have mentioned in terms of providing the guidance for businesses to look at tapping both the private financing that is available as well as any public financing that is available, such as the grants, etc. This is really superb. Before I hand over to Timothy, I'd just like to thank you again. Excellent. And just like to reiterate to any of the participants that if you do have questions, please place them in the question and answer chat. Thanks again, Mark, Miguel, Nadia. Excellent. Tim, over to you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Our two last presentations of the day are going to begin with a presentation from Senecon, who are going to show a digital tool which they've developed, and then we'll conclude with the Energy and Water Agency.
Okay. Hello, Timothy, and hello, Jeffrey, and thank you very much for the invitation to present our work, which is a collaborative work of a consortium of a Horizon 2020 project. And yes, now I will share my screen.
Very good.
Okay. Okay. I will present the work of the project ImpaWatt, and which is the ImpaWatt platform we developed, and maybe a short speech about our company. We are an energy consulting and software developing company based in Berlin. And yeah, we're doing national project, but also European projects. Okay. What was the motivation for the ImpaWatt project? ImpaWatt is targeting SMEs, and especially SMEs that that have already implemented energy audits. But we saw that even if companies did an energy audit, investments in energy efficiencies were not made, and the recommendations of energy audits weren't made as well. And the reasons for this are the lack of financial and human resources and of technical knowledge. Therefore, we developed the platform ImpaWatt, which is a knowledge and e-learning platform on energy efficiency, targeting SMEs of all sectors. As I said before, it was developed during a Horizon 2020 project and was implemented in 6 countries and in 5 languages. During the project, we tested the platform, or the companies participated to the project and tested and applied the platform, and we had 189 companies of all sectors within this project. And these companies also received free energy audits and participated to workshops and to webinars. The ImpaWatt was quite successful, and therefore we were encouraged to apply for the LIFE project Energy Efficiency for SME. And during this project, which was already presented yesterday by Joel Fernandez, the platform will be extended to Spain, Estonia, Bulgaria, Malta, and Cyprus. And the platform will also be applied in a new LIFE project, which will start in fall 2023, named the Energy Efficiency for HoReCa, for the hotel, restaurant, catering services. And what is interesting, within this project, we will also develop an energy hub, which will cover a lot of energy efficiency projects. And like we heard yesterday, there are a lot of interesting projects, and we would like to, yes, to make a tent for all these projects. And this will also be developed within the energy efficiency for HoReCa project. The target group for our platform is the company's energy manager, but we also are offering tools and materials for CEOs, for employees, and even for external energy consultants. On the platform, the company's energy manager or the other colleagues can find useful materials to implement the recommendations out of energy audits. They can monitor their energy consumption and increase the skills and motivation of their staff. What kind of topics and content are we offering? We have three main pillars. It's energy efficiency. It's also energy culture, because we heard from Phyllis that it's very important also to involve the staff when it comes to improve the energy efficiency, and it's also on sustainable supply chain. Yes, and regarding energy efficiency, most materials are in this field. It's on energy management but also on processes and on the building, the lighting system, mobility, and renewable energies. Now I would like to show you the current landing page of the platform. During the energy efficiency for SME project, we will improve the platform, also the navigation, because we want to streamline it. Here you see, you can choose, it's the European platform, and from this platform you can reach the national platforms, and it's always with the abbreviation of the company before Empowered. And companies can register to the platform or log in. As soon as they registered, they are asked to fill in their company profile, which is important because according to the profile, we can offer adequate content, tailored content to them. They are also asked to enter their energy consumption and enter the energy efficiency measures they are planning or they have already implemented. And on this dashboard, you see also they can find suitable measures for them, which is the content. Here you see just a small glimpse, short glimpse of the profile data. We will also streamline these data. What is important is the location of the company, is the building purpose or the site purpose, and the main equipment used, and also the branch on the NACE code. And the additional data are the consumption and the heated gross floor area and so on. Here you can see you can implement, you can enter the measures implemented or planned, and yeah, also the investment cost, and so you can have an overview on your energy efficiency plan and on the successes. Then we have an energy data monitoring, which is currently basic because we don't have a smart meter interface or something, but annual consumption, but could also be monthly consumption. And it's just also to have an overview and to see when you have implemented some energy saving measures, what is the success. Now we come to the core of the platform. Here you see the search measure section, and here you see the filter section where, according to the profile, this was an office building, certain equipment is already ticked, but you can also untick the boxes or tick other boxes, so it's not fixed but flexible. And here you see our filtering criteria. We filter by energy carrier, by the main technologies used, by the role of the people using the platform, if it's more a technician or if it's the CEO, by the sector, as I already told you, and by the content theme, if it's on energy efficiency or energy culture, and life cycle assessment, and the content type, because we have different types of content. And in total, we have 218 different content elements. And these are descriptions of energy saving measures. These are 5 pages where everything is well explained for companies and each measure. And we have best practice fact sheets. These are the success stories of companies that have already implemented some energy efficiency measures or renewable plants. We have checklists for each measure, what you have to take into account, and calculation tools. We have surveys for employees and energy measures to evaluate their energy efficiency state of play, quizzes for energy managers and employees. I come to this later. A lot of PowerPoint presentation, which can also be used and labeled to the company. And during the Empowered project, we produced 10 webinars. Each partner produced 10 webinars, which are also available on the content section. Here I have an example of content. For example, if you're looking for pumps or content regarding pumps, here you see what you can find. We have the PowerPoint presentation. We have a measure description. We have a best practice. Then we have a checklist, and we have a quiz on pumps. Now I come to the quiz. The quizzes are on the content section. You can download them and use them, and the energy manager can test them for himself, but also he can invite colleagues to do these quizzes. And just after doing the quiz, you have an evaluation on the correct answers. This is what you see next to it with the green and red marks. And for the energy manager that sent the invitation, he gets an overview on the number of quizzes, completed quizzes, and for each question, he gets the numbers of correct answers. And there it's interesting. For instance, he could do a presentation on mobility and to his colleagues, and afterwards he can check what was clear, what wasn't quite clear. This is the idea behind it. Now I come to the Empowered project, the outcomes and impact of the project. As I told, 189 companies actively participated to the project. 1,450 people increased their skills by attending webinars and workshops of the project. And we had 300 registered Empowered users. So not only the companies, but also users from abroad. And 2,000 content downloads were made. In total, 238 energy saving measures were implemented or planned by companies, and most of these measures were considering compressed air, fans, heating system, LED. or the introduction of energy management systems. And in total, during the project, we could, with the measures planned, can be saved to 12.4 gigawatt hours, and implemented measures during the project, we had 0.6 gigawatt hours. Yeah, because the project was a 3-year lifetime project, and therefore not all measures were terminated with the project, but were ongoing. Therefore, we had also the planned measures here. Now, for the new project, we will develop new features. So, as you saw, the navigation was quite overwhelming. Therefore, we decided to introduce a user assistant for the users, for the companies. We will have a self-assessment tool, a financial tool, which we will develop together with MBB, and with Timothy, I already worked a lot together very well. And we will have the improved landing page and profile and monitoring area. Now, because these new tools are not yet developed, just to get you an idea, what we will do is just, if a user gets on the platform, we will ask him what he wants to do. The first thing would be to evaluate his own energy efficiency status, but he could also just look for material and get to funding opportunities and get on these different sections. For the self-assessment tool, first of all, we have to know the company, which kind of sector it is, and whether an audit has already been implemented or performed, and what kind of measures have been implemented at the company. And then we have the evaluation. And we must say that during the project also has been done an evaluation on energy efficiency measures, the most effective energy efficiency measures per sector. And we will compare the measures implemented with these measures. And this will be taken into account for the evaluation. And also we will define energy performance indicators, and we will build these performance indicators for the company and compare them. But we won't start with only stating the status, just giving back the status to the company, but we will also make recommendations and for certain measures and where they can find content considering these measures, and also funding. We will lead to the financial section and also to the monitoring section. Now this is the financial tool we will develop together with MBB. And I have to say that Timothy already did a very more detailed analysis on the financial tools, but yes, we have to see how much information we can get into the tool, because we don't want to overwhelm the companies and to ask them for too much information. But we will have to know the sector and if an audit has been performed or not, which is a prerequisite for some funding measures. And then it's the kind of project the companies would like to implement, if it's only an audit or an energy management system, or if it's regarding the building or the process, renewables or mobility. And then we will ask if it should be a grant or if it should be a loan. Okay, this is it from my side. Thank you very much. And if you would like to have further information, here is the European platform and the IMPAWAT website, and also the website of the new energy efficiency for SME project. Please also contact me directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that excellent presentation, Claudia. I'm sure that our participants will find the tool very useful. One of the main themes of our project has also been upskilling. And on that note, I hand over to Ms. Amanda Zara for the final presentation on EWA Sustainability course.
Thank you, Timothy. Good afternoon to everyone. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can you see or?
We can see it. It's not yet in full screen.
Okay, same problem as before. Okay, let me try to do this again. Same again.
It's fine, don't worry. Let's go through it like this.
Okay, so my name is Amanda Zara and I work for the Energy and Water Agency, and I'm going to talk to you about a CSR course that we do every year as an agency. So the name of the course is Energy, Water and Sustainable Solution, Supporting Malta's Corporate Sector. So basically, this course came about, it is part of our LIFE project, of the Action C4 LIFE project. This action intends to develop and implement a water educational program targeted towards our younger generation, but it's not specific to them. And the objective of the whole program is to raise awareness on the scarcity of natural water resources on the Maltese island. With regards to this course, this is the 5th year that we are running these courses. And last year we used to do this as an 8-hour course. However, this year we changed it to a 9-hour online course. We usually run these courses 4 times during the year. We start in November. We actually go by scholastic year, because we like to leave the summer free. So we start our next cohort in November, and we target to do 4 courses each year. Each course is online, and they're all 9 hours each, and they run 3 hours each session on 3 consecutive weeks. So what is the aim of this course? The aim is to offer a service to our corporate sector by means of this employee training program. We're trying to create a positive impact on businesses by raising awareness on their role and sustainability, to present concepts and issues faced by corporations where it comes to sustainability, to offer ideas on sustainable solutions, and most of all, to instill a behavioral change across the corporate sector and thus to promote employee well-being. So as I said, it's divided into 3 sessions. So the first session targets the basic principles of sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals. Sessions 2 is more targeted toward energy, water, and sustainable buildings. And session 3 is from theory to action. And I'm going to be going a bit into detail as to how they are divided. So during the first session, we have a short definition of what sustainable development is, what the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are, and how these can be implemented into businesses. And we start tackling also circular economy. The first session is more theoretical, whilst then the second session is more practical, so to speak, where we have various speakers coming from professional speakers coming from different sections. We have presentations on renewable energy and energy efficiency, where we also give them an insight to grants that they can apply for. Also, another presentation of sustainable water use. As I mentioned before, grants and incentives on both energy and water. Educating our consumers. We have a program where we have officers going into houses, homes, and also micro SMEs, where they are educating the consumers on how to reduce energy and also how to conserve more water. And we also have presentations on green roofs and the quality of life of these, how they can improve quality of life through green roofs. Our third session, then we have a session about sustainable buildings, also how to retrofit existing buildings. Then we have a set of case studies where this is more, so to speak, hands-on, where the participants are able to analyze these case studies and come out with sustainable solutions. We tackle climate change, and then the last workshop would be living the SDGs, how they can create an action plan targeted for their specific business. So why are these courses beneficial? They basically balance the financial health alongside the environmental and social concern. It takes a long-term view and embodies holistic thinking required to resolve these complex mix of demands. It makes them a corporation more attractive for future employees and offers also better economic performance. So basically, sustainable products may also allow a firm to reach new customers through these sustainable products. They also reduce operational costs. Sustainable development, when you adopt an action plan, which is sustainable, may stimulate a change towards increased performance in the firm. Improved sustainable performance also helps access financial capitals and grants, as we have seen already in previous presentations. And better sustainability performance may also improve a firm's access to human capital. How do these help? Through engagement, where it makes sure that each person in the organization can, and they feel that they can make a positive difference through their everyday roles in the company. They are also relevant, where they make sustainability relevant throughout the entire ethos of the whole business and the operation of their business. And it can also make it trendy, where these sustainable consumption of goods and services are nowadays even becoming trendier, so to speak. Something else that we have incorporated this past year is a sustainability conference that goes with these courses. These conferences, the conference mainly targets two main issues: the support that is offered by the Energy and Water Agency to enterprises and corporations to be more sustainable, and also funding resources that are available to these organizations. And the second part of the conference would be what an employee can do to ensure better sustainability in their workplace. How is the sustainability conference divided? We have presentations from a number of foreign speakers and experts. We have panel discussions and also workshops on best practices. Over here, I have a small video of our last conference.
And we can't hear the video, I'm afraid.
There's just nothing. It's just music. So
okay, that's fine.
Just a few seconds long. So what are the learning outcomes that can come from these courses? They help in the devising appropriate solutions to problems in the area of sustainability and sustainable development by taking into account perspective of various actors in the social and cultural and ethical considerations, where participants can learn how to devise an action plan that reduces the impact of the human activities where it comes to mainly energy, water, and sustainability. And also it demonstrates a sense of social and ethical and professional responsibility in the workplace. It's good to mention that these courses are free of charge. So whoever wants to apply for these courses, they are free. And also when it comes to the conference, it is also free to attend the conference. The results that we got from these past courses, we have done these courses for around 475 employees in financial institutions. We had another 150 corporate employees coming from different organizations, and altogether we have reached over 25 different organizations. And that brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. Should you need more information, please do not hesitate to contact me or contact somebody from the Energy and Water Agency, and they can direct their questions to me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zara. I think that's a great call to action with which we can conclude today's conference. Though first, I understand Jeffrey has a question for Claudia and for Amanda Zara.
Thank you, Timothy. Yes, I'd like to start off by asking a question to Claudia and then a question to Amanda. First of all, congratulations, both excellent presentations, very, very interesting. Claudia, one of the things which really strikes me about the Empowered platform is how it was developed through an EU-funded project, implemented in a set of countries, and now it is being further developed through other EU-funded projects and expanded to other member states. That is a fantastic story. I think it's real value added. Could you share any thoughts regarding the future of the platform and what needs and opportunities are present in the near to mid-term?
Yes, what is important for keeping up the platform is, on the one side, you need technical resources for the hosting and maintenance of the platform, but also it's very important that you have somebody who moderates the platform. So, and as we are working together with a lot of chambers of industry and commerce in Europe, it would be great if they keep using the platform. And also I have to mention that it's an open platform. So it's not, so they can all also upload their own content and new content, and also now we are designing new tools for the platform, and we will do it with a framework allowing other tools also to be implemented as microservices, and also these tools could be used by other platforms. So it's, the platform consists on the core, on the structure, but also on the content and on the additional features. And yeah, and I think it is great that it will be applied to other within other European projects. But yes, hopefully it's not only funded by projects, but will be also used after project lifetime, and hopefully also in Malta.
Fantastic. Really good point on the commercialization of product developed through projects. Super. Thank you, Claudia. Amanda, also extremely interesting to see the course being run by EWA. Are there any plans for follow-ups to the course?
Yes, basically the course runs every year, so we shall be doing another course starting November. Also, as a follow-up for those course participants, so to speak, there is the conference where during the conference all the participants can do networking, and they can meet up with the presenters and the experts in the field and discuss with them if they have any problems or they need any help. We also do offer help to organizations when it comes to identifying measures that they would need to implement in their various organizations. And if anybody would like, say they would like a course that is tailor-made for them, for the specific organization, we can also do that. So we can come to an agreement even how to do the courses. So we actually are quite open to sharing this information with anybody, and we can make it as accessible as possible to them. So we are also offering tailor-made courses. Also, upon request, the attendees of past courses can also receive free consultation sessions, so to speak, to best discuss practices in their organization. Obviously, all this information will remain confidential.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amanda. That sounds extremely exciting. So we've had 5 speakers, 5 follow-up questions, and we've seen support that is available to companies, not only in terms of public financing and private financing, but also courses available to increase the knowledge within enterprises, and as well as platforms to further empower enterprises to identify opportunities and exploit them. This is quite a lot of support for just coming to businesses. Thank you both. Timothy, over to you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Essentially, that concludes all the presentations we've had today. Let's hear a few words from Charles Buttigieg from the Energy and Water Agency as we start to wind down.
First of all, congratulations to all the speakers. I think we had a really interesting online fair, much better than actually I thought 2 years ago when we started the project, to say the truth. A project, a road that has taken us and touched upon various topics. These were explained thoroughly well yesterday by Jeffrey. I need not repeat them again. But I think it was a successful venture. It was a successful venture because, like Joe Tanti, CEO of MBB earlier said, it touched upon information sharing between industry and between the public sector and industry. We will not stop there. As part of this We Make project, we managed to win 2 live projects, like Jeffrey correctly said yesterday, and we're planning to continue this cooperation between us and the Malta Business Bureau. And in these 2 live projects, we're focus the light upon the hospitality sector and the food and beverage manufacturing sector. So these 2 sectors would be hearing from us at least in this coming 2 years, probably a little bit more than the other sectors. But obviously, none of the sectors is shunned from us. You know, the agency, we try to cooperate with everyone and push the energy efficiency and water conservation slogan to everyone and everywhere, from the households to the largest industry. But before I close down from the agency side, I would like to thank everyone who took part in the We Make project, especially 3 people: Timothy Yolden, Jeffrey Saliba from MBB, and then Mary Gregg from our side, from the agency. Jeff, I leave up to you. Sorry, Tim, I leave up to you to say the last few words. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thanks, Charles. It's been a pleasure working with you and Anne-Marie, and of course, working with all the companies in attendance today and many more besides. Building on what Joe Tanti said this morning, for me, the most pleasant surprise was the willingness of Maltese companies to share their best practices, open their doors to us, and even in the case of Tolly, take us on a tour of the factory, and work together to build up the entire industry. And especially looking at other projects abroad, you don't often find that same willingness for companies to be so open and, I would say, cooperative. I think we're lucky in Malta that while we do compete for human resources, we don't often compete in the manufacturing sector for clients. So what that means is, as Joe said, we can grow the pie by upskilling and sharing knowledge and making, obviously, the whole country more competitive as a result. So I very much look forward going forward now to work with EWA, of course, on the revalue, to continue to work with Claudia and EWA on the energy efficiency for SME project, which Joel Fernandez shared yesterday. And of course, to many more endeavors and taking advantage of many opportunities in the future. And of course, thank you to Jeffrey, without which the project wouldn't have been possible and without whom which we wouldn't have won these 2 fantastic live projects. So that brings essentially most of the We Make project to a conclusion after 2 years. except for any final opportunities for companies to do an energy audit or any similar opportunities. So thank you, everyone, and good day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.